What's a completely legal thing that screams, "You're a terrible human being"? Story 1. Standing in the way of doorways, aisles, etc., and taking an attitude when someone dares asks, "Excuse me," so they can get through. Answer. I had a lady standing in the middle of one of two doors of a double doorway, put her foot in front of the other door that was still closed when she saw me approaching. I grabbed the door, said, "Excuse me." She glances at me, doesn't move. So I say it again and again. She glances without moving. I yank that door open, nearly knocking her over, and she has the audacity to get upset. She didn't work at the place I was entering, nor did the person she was talking to. She was fudged losing it at one of the employees claiming I was racist or some shoot. We were clearly not the same race. Story 2. Not flushing the toilet in public restrooms literally takes 2 seconds. Just flush your turds, man. Story 3. Decide you don't want to buy something perishable you grabbed at the grocery store, like raw meat, so you just chuck it on the nearest non-refrigerated shelf. Answer. My son worked at a couple grocery stores and he didn't see meat in the wrong place, but he frequently saw bakery packages of multiple items, cookies, croissants, buns, etc., in the wrong aisle with one missing. And those containers couldn't be refilled and put back out. They had to be thrown away since they'd been opened. So much waste thanks to doshi thieves. Story 4. Keeping a dog that only exists chained up outside your house with almost zero interaction, minimal food, water, no shelter. Answer. My parents' neighbor has 4 huskies that stay on leashes in their yard all day in the Florida heat. They have shade trees, but even I can't sit in the shade and be comfortable in this weather. He uses those stupid metal thread wires, and even still the dogs chew through them and get loose all the time. One time one of them jumped over our fence with half of the rope around his neck and would have hung himself if I hadn't seen him. Then another time we were sitting outside at a bonfire late at night and heard screaming from one of the dogs. Not normal husky screaming. And I pointed it out, but everyone said they do that all the time. Then, another 10 minutes later, the screaming got worse, so I ran over to check on the dogs, and one of them had gotten stuck with her leg, wrapped up in the metal thread wire, and was hanging upside down with foam coming out of her mouth. She had been gnawing at her leg and was panicking. She ended up being okay, but still, that should not have happened. I don't think the neighbors are bad people. They're just incredibly ignorant, incompetent, and should not own dogs. He keeps them on the metal wires since they can hop the fences and chew through normal leashes. But those metal wires leashes suck and are very dangerous. Loving animals does not mean having more animals than you can adequately care for. I think they're just status symbols to him or something. IDK. Great sweet dogs though. Negligent and dumb owner who does not seem to understand that it's not normal for your neighbors to always be rescuing your dogs. Story 5. Family vlogging. I don't necessarily mean if you're a blogger who talks about your own life, and sometimes you share things about your kids. I mean, forcing your kids on camera, severely limiting their privacy, and sharing moment secrets that should just be for family. Answer. I remember back in the day, in 2009, when I first heard about this, I just thought it sounded like a cute idea. Like, let's say me and my wife move across the country and my mom wants to keep up with what we're up to. Well, I could of course call her, but she would also think it's sweet if I could share videos. So she'll know what me and her grandkids are doing? Even better, what if my family gets a channel where I can show them things? I feel this idea has been ruined. Story 6. Blasting loud music on public transport with no headphones. It's selfish and shows zero respect for the people around you. Story 7. Suing someone who tried to help you saved your life. Some states have laws protecting people now, but there's a reason they had to do it. My father was a first responder at the factory he worked at. Coworker got electrocuted. Dad gave him CPR until EMTs arrived. Guy sued him for breaking some of his ribs. For real, the EMTs said Guy would be dead without my dad. Went nowhere, thankfully, but put a real bad cloud over things for a while. Answer: I'm reluctant to make judgments of people in situations like this without knowing the complete circumstances. A few years ago, the internet came down hard on an aunt who was suing her young nephew because she, broke her wrist when he enthusiastically rushed to hug her and she slipped on some ice and fell. Multitudes of people called her a monster. She's suing her nephew for loving her, and then it turns out she was just following procedure to get her wrist treated and covered by insurance, and she filed the lawsuit with the full knowledge and approval of her sister, the nephew's mom. It might have even been her medical insurance company filing the lawsuit on her behalf against the nephew, but only to get paid by the sister's homeowner insurance. The actual people involved know what's going on and can handle their own shoot. My judgment does neither of them any good, so the world doesn't need me to join in on any pile one that the internet is so fond of doing. Story 8. Paying a ton of money to Congress members so that they don't regulate your business and make you treat your employees like human beings. The official term is lobbying, but it's just gentrified bribery. Story 9. I read somewhere about how a guy's mom was getting treatment for her cancer, which prevented her from working. Because every insurance provider is run by Satan apparently, her specific insurance provider found a loophole that if she missed 30 days of work, they didn't have to pay for her treatment, to which they did by waiting a month. Answer: now, this obviously isn't as bad. But last time some idiot wrecked my car through crashing into me at a red light. This has happened more than once. The insurance company told me I would have to pay for every day they stored my car before getting the damage inspected. That'll be $100 per night subtracted from your final settlement, and we need to keep the car for 2 weeks. Can't do it any faster than that. This was functionally the equivalent of them saying, "We're giant assholes, so instead of doing anything reasonably, we're gonna make you hire a lawyer." Anyway, I don't trust insurance companies not to delay whenever delaying gets them more money. Story 10. Heard a banker bragging about how a person was seeking a loan for a plot of land. Banker asked him how he planned to use the land to pay back the loan. Banker then denied his loan, went and bought the land himself, and used the person's entire idea for himself. Answer: similar situation. My dad once saw this small, run-down, but still fixable house near the park. He had always wanted to live near the park and thought this house might be the perfect one to retire in. But the house wasn't listed for sale, and no one around seemed to know who owned it. He decided to ask a real estate agent that he had done contracting work for in the past how to go about buying the house, and they said they would help him. Nope. The agent found who owned the house but didn't even give my dad a chance to buy it. Instead, he immediately bought it himself so he could flip it. These scumbag agents are the reason why it's very difficult to find reasonably priced fixer-upper homes in this area. They find them first, and they close the deal before anybody else has a chance. Story 11. Filming strangers for content without their consent. No, your prank isn't harmless. And no, you're not raising awareness. You're just a budget villain with a ring light. Answer: OMG, thank you. I've said this before online and people act like I accuse them, or murder. I'm pretty sure it's illegal in some places to record people without their consent. It infuriates me when people just record and don't blur other people's faces. The thought I have is, what if someone is fleeing DV? I know it's a small chance, but maybe their abuser will see the video and be able to find them. And the bottom line is, some people do not want to be recorded. That should be the only thing that matters. Stop recording people on public unless they explicitly consent. Story 12. Recording someone injured. You'll never forget when that junior kid in NYC was literally dying and people were just standing around recording him. Answer: I'm very glad that's actually illegal here in Germany, and I'm sure there's going to be people reading this who think what a horrible, horrible restriction of free speech that is, but I think that is a reasonable case where someone's personal dignity should be given priority. Paragraph 201A of the German Penal Code, StGB, specifies that, under penalty of a fine or up to 2 years in prison, it's forbidden to produce or share without permission footage showing another person's helpless scene, thereby violating the most personal space of the depicted person. An exception would be if it's a news reporter reporting on a significant event of great importance, but that definitely doesn't apply to, e.g., a pedestrian lying on the street in pain after getting hit by a car with random passerbys all pointing their smartphones at them. Story 13. Dislike people who treat the workers badly. Security staffs, retail workers, etc. Have seen several entitled Karens treating these workers badly. Story 14. People who throw the clothes over top of the rack, bonus points if it's inside out, instead of hanging it back up when they're shopping. Or try on shoes and then leave them on the floor. Open packages and then don't put the stuff back. Just drop it on the shelf. It's disrespectful to the staff, and as a customer, I don't want to have to shop around their mess. Answer: oh my God. When I worked retail in college, we had this absolutely rancid woman come into our store with her rich dad, maybe husband. She proceeds to try on 1 or 2 of nearly every clothing item in our store. We ask her for the things she doesn't want as she's trying on, but keeps saying, just a minute, and never comes out of the fitting room until she's done. We can see a large pile of clothing on the floor under the door, but can't do anything about it because we think it will be a big sale. Nope. Walks out without a word, buying nothing. When we go to clean up the room, she has literally just left the clothes and hangers on the floor wherever they fell as she took things off, trampling a new layer each time she stomped out of a pair of jeans. We had to damage several things out, including a dress she ripped because she didn't see that it had a zipper. Someone peed in our steamer bucket one time and a woman defrauded me right to my face, but I couldn't find a reason to deny her return, but I still dislike that woman more. Story 15. Treat your children like dogs shoot, or don't ever teach your kids anything and let them do whatever the fudge they want. Story 16. Child beauty pageants. Every pageant girl I've ever met had a shoot-home life, and or ended up with severe body image issues. Even the girls who entered pageants because they wanted to be there got fudge up by it. Most girls were forced into it at one time or another. I can't help but think badly of parents who make their daughters go through all that. Story 17. Mocking or humiliating service workers for doing their job. It's legal, but it says a lot about someone's character when they treat people with less power or pay as if they're beneath them. Basic respect costs nothing. Story 18. Being a business owner and driving a vehicle that costs more than most people's homes while paying all of your employees minimum wage. Answer: when I used to work in a warehouse, I had a boss who got a new, nice car. His old car was a piece of junk, but he wanted to keep it, so he parked it in the warehouse. He didn't have extra space at his house, so he took up warehouse floor space that we did not have extra of for his car for months. The warehouse was so cramped because we had to clear out a section for it. He also put in a weight bench and punching bag. The warehouse was already cramped, but his junk just made it worse. Story 19. Kicking out your kids when they turn 18, especially if you taught them no life skills and did not prepare them to survive alone as adults. Story 20. hanging steel testicles under your bumper, or displaying a large decal of a bound and gagged presidential candidate on your tailgate. Story 21. Racism toward children. I have a loved one who works in law enforcement, and his personal pet peeve is people who call the police on black kids playing in public parks. Like a woman raising $1 million because she screamed the N-word at a toddler is insane. What's wrong with people? Story 22. The parents who arranged to have their children kidnapped in the middle of the night by those religious wilderness camps that actively traumatize and abuse kids. Thankfully, I've been reading more and more stories about those camps being shut down or taken to court over their activities. Answer: this happened to one of my best friends in high school, and they will never be rid of the insane trauma those places caused them. They went to one of those crazy reform schools, as well as a really abusive wilderness program. The stories they have are literally chilling, like I get goosebumps listening to them. I'll never look at their parents the same way again. Story 23. Not pulling over when an ambulance or fire truck has its sirens going and is on your side of the street. Story 24. Posting a detailed 25,000-word essay on your recipe blog about the trip to Spain that made you fall in love with tapas, without including a jump to recipe button. Story 25. Much older men specifically targeting barely legal girls, I'm talking just turned legal age of consent, to date. Story 26. Being able to deny someone's healthcare procedures or medications after they've paid thousands in premiums. Story 27. Kids in dirty, out-of-season clothes while the parents are dressed nice in weather-appropriate clothes. Story 28. I'm going to sue you for libel to try and force you not to tell the truth about how I actually behaved because I'm privileged and have access to expensive lawyers. Story 29. At my local D social service office, there is an ADA bench area where people can sit instead of waiting in the standing line. Now, no one can ask if person is ADA, but the benches have started filling up with kids and other adults who have realized if they sign in there, they usually, not always, but usually get called up first, so the benches open faster. So more people sign in there, so the people with walkers, canes, and mobility aids can't. Meanie, I saw you doing jumping jacks with your friends in the parking lot, then you all take up 2 of the benches. Get called up after 15 minutes. When the wait line is 45, something isn't adding up. Story 30. Filming yourself doing pranks that involve strangers just trying to exist in public. It's legal, so is being a menace with a camera. Story 31. I saw an Instagram account last week that was just a bunch of videos of different underage girls, like young ones. It made my skin crawl. Story 32. Surrendering lifelong family pets to shelters because they are too old, and then turning around and adopting a new, younger pet screams, "Awful human" to me. Story 33. Clickbait. My current pet peeve is people who post movie clips without identifying what show it is to bait people into commenting as a means to up their post's engagement numbers, or to answer them with spam links they couldn't get away with in the original post, but can put in its comments. Story 34. Knowing politicians are lying or doing something unethical or illegal, and rather than reporting it, they write a book about it to make a profit for themselves. Shame on the publishers who encourage this too. Story 35. I saw a reel recently of a woman who said her mom's boyfriend looked up what exactly constituted intimacy abuse of a minor in their state so he could work around it to touch her, rubbed her under her clothes as close as he could get to her genitals without technically molesting her in the eyes of the law. A lot of men in comments. Before anyone jumps down my throat about singling out men, I didn't see any comments like this from women. We're saying if it was legal, it was fine. He was smart for doing it that way, and she needs to stop accusing him of abuse when he didn't technically do anything. Wrong, so I'm gonna say, getting as close as you can to molesting a child without it technically being constituted molestation in the eyes of the law. Story 36. Not holding the door open when someone is right behind you, or not saying thank you to the person that held the door open for you. Story 37. Getting an adorable puppy or kitten, fussing over and playing with it until it gets bigger and you become kind of bored of it. Then it goes to live ignored and lonely in the backyard, most likely not spayed or neutered. Repeat cycle infinitely. I dislike people who do that. Story 38. People who insult athletes at sporting events. Like, yes, they can hear you. No, they're not going to react. And yes, you are a piece of shoot. Looking at you, sombrero hat man at the Giants game last night. Story 39. Buying up hordes of concert tickets to resell for crazy prices. Just taking advantage of people desperate to see their favorite artist that the seller does not give two shoot about. Story 40. Leaving perishable foods randomly throughout the grocery store. What? You think you can just waste food? Do you think people don't work hard to make that food? You think it's okay to just be wasteful? Story 41. I watched this lady on a bus here in NYC slap, scream, and curse at her two boys, about 6 and 8, for about 20 minutes because they were complaining about how one kept touching the other, standard kid stuff. They were both crying but trying hard to suppress it because she threatened them more if they were making noise. She hopped off the bus with them and greeted her friend with a giant smile and a "Hey girl." So this ire was just for them. None of us did anything because she stepped to an old lady who had the nerve to give her a disapproving look. She was so unstable and violent towards the kids that everyone knew she would swing on one of us next, and the bus was mostly older folks and 39-week pregnant me, LOL. Story 42. People planting obscuring hedges and plants right on street corners, which prevents you from seeing oncoming cars and pedestrians. Story 43. Littering. Bonus points if you throw your trash cigarette butts at the garbage instead of in the garbage. Story 44. Owning a loud jerk car motorcycle and purposefully revving it like crazy in places where people have to hear it. If you're going to rev like crazy, go out to the middle of nowhere and do it. No one wants to hear it. Story 45. Giving your kids a Ritrigidae name without considering shoot-like bullying, getting a job, a place to live, etc. Because it's cute and unique hee-hee fudge all the way off, and then fudge off some more. Story 46. Letting untrained dogs walk off leash where other people and animals are present. And furthermore, being a cunt about it when they're called out for it or their dog becomes aggressive. Story 47. Mistreating service industry workers, not putting your shopping cart back, not picking up your dog's poop, believing that immigrants are the enemy hating them instead of the billionaire ruling class. Story 48. FB posts of memes, then when you click the image to enlarge, it's an affiliate link that redirects you to some e-commerce site. I automatically block the person who shared and the page it came from. Fudge scumbags. Story 49. People who wait in the wings until someone is the legal age of consent just to date them. If the only thing stopping someone from sexualizing and/or romantically pursuing a child is the law, then that person is a predator. Story 50. Bass in music. If I am at home and it is so high my glasses are rattling, you are a male body part. If it is 6:30 in the morning and I am driving to work and your music is making my truck vibrate, you are a male body part. Story 51. Mike Lee selling our public land, trying to undo everything Roosevelt did to protect parks and land. Story 52. When you're doing spring cleaning or moving, using companies like Goodwill to move and dispose of your trash for free by scheduling pickup of literal garbage. Donating rotten, expired food to homeless shelters and food banks while bragging about your charity work. Yes, Gail, the only thing homeless people are missing in life is botulism from your dented cans of fruit cocktail that expired in 1964. Story 53. Chaining a dog outside in all weather in general. Unless a livestock guardian, why have a pet animal if you don't do anything but feed and water? Story 54. Collectors started buying packs of Pokemon cards, then weighing or imaging them to see what's inside. After selecting the suspected hit packs, they would return the common packs to the stores for a refund. That's why stores started selling complete boxes now, because people are scumbags. Story 55. Playing a movie on your phone, full volume, in the office because that's how you work best. That's cool. Headphones exist. Story 56. Yelling at employees, whether they work under you or are service workers. The telemarketer is still a human being who deserves basic respect. The McDonald's employees don't have a say in how much your burger costs. And especially if you are a manager or are hiring a contractor, there is a better way to communicate what you need from them than shouting. Story 57. You guys know the videos of the people or person who mow untidy lawns or grassy areas and sometimes get stopped by the cops and get told not to do it because it's the city's job. Yeah, if the city isn't gonna do it, I don't understand why they'd tell people not to. Just to clarify, I'm not talking about the cops. I'm talking about the city who doesn't do their job. Story 58. When my dad passed away, a woman with no connection at all to our family posted a link to her essential oil store in the comments for his obituary, with a comment that he wouldn't have lived longer if he just used essential oils. Story 59. Billionaires not paying any taxes, while poor and middle-class people struggle paycheck to paycheck and could be jailed for the same thing. Story 60. Getting a pet while not being able to take proper care of it. Or people that get pets and then just don't care at all. Also, buying exotic animals. Story 61. Having a friend who you only go out with so you can be the pretty friend. My sister is guilty of this. Story 62. Turning your horribly behaved children loose in a store, then absolutely ignoring them and the mess they make. Story 63. 1. Simultaneously contributing to noise pollution and putting your kids at risk by being too lazy to teach them appropriate outdoor voices. If I screamed as a kid when playing outside and I wasn't injured or a stranger wasn't trying to snatch me or a friend, I would have gotten a scolding from my mom. It was the same for my friends. Not only is it obnoxious when kids are constantly screaming up and down the street while playing, you eventually stop looking to see why they're screaming when they do it all the time. It's like the boy.